Let's turn up the juice and see what shakes loose, as today we are returning to Beetlejuice for 10 more things that you didn't know about this supernatural comedy, where Michael Keaton plays the ghost with the most, where Beetlejuice is an out-of-control demonic prankster and self-proclaimed bioexorcist, who can rid homes of the living, so ghosts who occupy them can live out their afterlife in peace. Yes, we all know Beetlejuice, and we've all seen the film and loved it. But the true question is, do we know all that is to know about this fun, wacky fantasy adventure that was brought to life on the screen by the mind of Tim Burton? If we were to dig a little deeper into Beetlejuice's grave, is there more fun, interesting knowledge waiting to be unearthed? Well, today we are going to find out. So, get ready to explore 10 more things that you didn't know about Beetlejuice, a video that follows up from a previous episode that I made a few years ago. So if you don't know why I didn't mention certain things, then they're probably already in that video. So with all that out the way, let's check it out.
It's showtime.
Number 10. The inspiration behind Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was the brainchild of American novelist Michael McDowell, where in the mid-80s he wanted to try out writing movie scripts and wanted to write a movie involving the supernatural after being inspired by the movies Ghostbusters and Poltergeist. McDowell teamed up with his partner, Lawrence Senelik, to write the script, where they both got to work on the script in their home, where they created the character who would become Beetlejuice. But unlike the movie where Beetlejuice is a mischievous prankster, in the original concept, he was a straight-up murderous monster, a winged demon, who was out to murder the Dietz family rather than just scare them off. And the ending is pretty grim too, as it was to feature the character Lydia Dietz dying and living the rest of her afterlife with the Maitlands. Other interesting differences from the original script is that Beetlejuice wasn't summoned by calling his name 3 times, but rather by digging up his bones from out the ground. And there was even a second Dietz daughter called Kathy Dietz, who was 9 years old, who of course was cut out from the final script. So, it sounds like Beetlejuice was going to be less supernatural comedy and more exorcist. Number 9. Universal Pictures hated the Beetlejuice script. So with the original Michael McDowell script complete, Beetlejuice had to find a distributor in order to get the movie made. Larry Wilson came on board as Beetlejuice's co-producer, who worked for Universal Pictures at the time, so he took the script to one of the higher-ups at the movie company. Wilson very quickly got a call back saying that this executive at Universal wanted to see him. So Wilson got excited and thought that this was a sure deal, and that Universal obviously really liked Beetlejuice and wanted to make it. Upon showing up to the meeting, Wilson was then told by the executive just how much he hated the script, calling it too weird, saying that he, Wilson, is a good producer with a good career ahead of him, but he will be throwing his career away if he wastes his time on this quote, piece of shit. So needless to say, the meeting didn't go very well, and Beetlejuice and Universal Pictures weren't exactly a match made in heaven. Now, some filmmakers may react to such a blasting by abandoning the project, but thankfully the Beetlejuice production soldiered on to find another production company. Number 8. Tim Burton could have directed another comedy movie instead. The Beetlejuice script found its way to producer David Geffen, whose company, the Geffen Company, along with Warner Brothers, had produced several popular movies, including Risky Business and Little Shop of Horrors. Geffen believed in the script and saw great potential in Beetlejuice, so his company backed up the movie. So next he needed a director. And at one stage, horror movie legend and A Nightmare on Elm Street director Wes Craven was considered to direct Beetlejuice, but he declined. Tim Burton was in high demand at the time thanks to directing Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Burton was sent several potential scripts for potential movies for him to direct at that time, but he wasn't interested in any of them. One of these movies that Burton could have directed was the comedy movie Hot to Trot, the movie which features a talking horse, yeah. When offered the script for Beetlejuice, Burton was more enthusiastic. so Burton stood up high in his gothic boots as Beetlejuice's director. However, he wanted to change the script from being a dark, bleak horror to more of a fun supernatural comedy, along with whimsical elements. So several rewrites of Beetlejuice took place, which led to the script that we all know and love, with contributions from Beverly Hills Cop 2 writer Warren Scarron, who incidentally would go on to co-write Tim Burton's Batman, and the as-mentioned co-producer Larry Wilson, who would also go on to co-write the Addams Family movie. Number 7. The studio's original choice for Beetlejuice. I mentioned in my previous Beetlejuice episode that Tim Burton's original choice for Beetlejuice was Sammy Davis Jr., but his request was denied. So who was the face that the studio really wanted to see as the pesky demon? Well, there was two main choices. One was Dudley Moore, the other was Sam Kinison, both of whom would have been interesting choices. It was David Geffen himself who thought that Michael Keaton would be right for the part. However, Keaton originally turned the role down, and even Burton himself wasn't too enthusiastic about Keaton. But when Keaton and Burton met up, they really hit it off and really liked each other, and from then Keaton really wanted to be Beetlejuice, and Burton really wanted Keaton to be Beetlejuice, so it took off from there. And when it came to playing Beetlejuice, supposedly Keaton took inspiration from the character Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Which, yeah, when you find that out, you can kind of see the connections. Incidentally, for the role of Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton only had to do 2 weeks worth of work, simply because his role in the movie was so minimal. And in addition to that, he also ad-libbed most of his lines. Number 6. B-movie special effects. Beetlejuice was given a relatively small budget of $15 million, which is quite low for a special effects heavy movie, especially compared to fellow supernatural comedy Ghostbusters, which had a budget of $25 million. And so apparently only $1 million of the budget was allocated to Beetlejuice's special effects, which is why Tim Burton chose to use stop motion, and for the effects in the movie to look deliberately like B-movie monster effects. And yeah, I always felt the effects in Beetlejuice were going for a 1950s B-movie look, and it totally works, as the stop motion and the general way the effects are presented actually go with the surreal, otherworldly nature of Beetlejuice. It's like the effects look a little off, but they are meant to. That's part of the show, and I couldn't imagine it any other way. And let's be honest, the effects look way better than what would be produced now, as they would just CGI all the monster and creature effects. Number 5. Filming location. Despite the fact that Beetlejuice is set in a fictional town called Winter River in Connecticut, location filming actually took place at East Corinth, which is a very small remote town in Vermont, New England. The town in Beetlejuice is very quaint and elegant, and is full of character and charm, while also looking very timely, and it really suits the film. The Maitland house wasn't real, but was in fact a prop house that was built on location, and was taken down once filming had wrapped up. In the trailer for a documentary about the filming of Beetlejuice called Documentary for the Recently Deceased, a local resident claimed that when Beetlejuice was being filmed at the location, there was a lot of buzz in the community. A lot of people were excited, but not all were overjoyed with having this movie being filmed in their town. There were some that were a little nervous, as they didn't know what these Hollywood filmmakers would do to their town. But by all accounts, it seemed that filming there was a positive experience, and a joy for everyone involved. As for the scene where the Maitlands die by crashing off a bridge into a river, the bridge was modified to have a car crash over it, with the red, barn-looking structure being built specifically for the movie. But filming that scene was actually quite tough, as the crew had to block off the river in order for there to be enough water for the car to fall into. And the river was blocked by using blocks of cement, but storms would often come along and wash the cement blocks away, which would empty the water build-up and they would have to start again. But it did eventually work, and the shot happened, and thankfully no one got hurt. The location and its people seem like such a nice little community. If I could, I would live there. And if you look at the town now, it looks like it's hardly changed since the filming of Beetlejuice. Number 4. Movie poster magic. Can we just take a moment to really appreciate the Beetlejuice movie poster? Not only does it perfectly capture the madcap supernatural chaos seen in the movie, but it also is truly a mesmerizing piece of art, and has gone on to be considered one of the most iconic movie posters of the 1980s. The poster was drawn by artist Carl Ramsey, who also created the movie posters for Return of the Living Dead, One Crazy Summer, Police Academy 5, and Caddyshack 2. And his efforts truly knocked it out of the park with Beetlejuice. The poster is, for lack of a better terminology, truly magical. Usually some countries get their own versions of movie posters. However, the whole world seems to be pretty unison with the main poster design being the poster of choice. Except for this Japanese poster, which is just weird and all over the place. I mean, there is so much going on. It almost looks like a cut and paste collage that someone has put together. But hey, I don't mind it. For if anything, because it looks so different. And the word that comes to mind when I see this poster is hyperactive. Then we have the Denmark Beetlejuice poster, in which the movie has been retitled to Poltergeist Beetlejuice. And at first glance, it's the usual traditional poster that we all know and love. Except if you look at Beetlejuice's face, they've made him look terrifying, where he appears to be a much more sinister looking ghoul. I don't know why it was decided to make these modifications on Beetlejuice's head on the poster, but my guess was they decided to market the movie as being more of a horror movie. But that's just a guess, as I can't figure out just what purpose it would serve to change up Beetlejuice's head on the poster. Number 3. The ghosts are watching us. So in the later part of Beetlejuice, we see Adam and Barbara Maitland being summoned to Juno's office, where she gives them a grinding for summoning up Beetlejuice and tells them to get the handbook back from the Ofo character, and that they must now use new scare tactics. Well, in a window behind Adam and Barbara, we see a bunch of what looks like ghouls sitting around just watching what's going on. I always thought this background scenery was weird and just didn't make any sense. It's like, who are these guys? Why are they watching what's going on in the background? Well, this wasn't just some weird background setting. This was actually meant to represent something way more meta within Beetlejuice. You see, the plan was this. When watching Beetlejuice in a movie theatre, it was to actually symbolise that ghosts and ghouls from the other side are also watching Beetlejuice, just like we are watching it on this side. And just how we can see them watching the movie in the background, they can also see us watching the movie from their vision. Almost like the walls of the living and afterlife dimensions had briefly broken down thanks to the Beetlejuice movie. This is a very creepy but also inventive idea. Although I always wondered, what's with the guy in the black suit and sunglasses? Some resources suggest that he was supposed to look like one of the Blues Brothers, but I always thought he looked like Otho. Number 2. Beetlejuice won an Oscar. Despite going on to be a huge pop cultural phenomenon, which has continued to grow in time, Beetlejuice was also a huge deal when it came out, with many claiming it to be the best comedy of 1988. It made over $74 million on its $15 million budget, making it the 10th highest grossing movie of 1988, and led to an onslaught of memorabilia and a cartoon. However, Beetlejuice's true crowning achievement came in the form of the 61st Academy Awards, where it won for Best Makeup. It was also competing against Coming to America and Scrooged, so it was tough competition, but Beetlejuice rightfully won, as the makeup effects in Beetlejuice are really out of this world and imaginative. I can remember watching Beetlejuice as a kid for the first time and being blown away, as I just never seen anything like that before in my life. Some of the makeup effects do look a little creaky in places, but like the stop motion effects, it kind of adds to its charm. And for the most part, the makeup effects do still hold up now. So, well done guys. The effects in Beetlejuice were ghastly and even kind of terrifying, and sometimes even disturbing, but at the same time, you just couldn't take your eyes off them. Number 1. Who is Beetlejuice? So we know that Beetlejuice is a bioexorcist, a troublemaking spirit who is the self-proclaimed ghost with the most. But really, how much do we know about Beetlejuice? Who is he and what was he before he died? In the movie, we learn that Beetlejuice has been around for 600 years, and that he lived through the Black Plague. This means that Beetlejuice would have likely been born sometime in the 1300s, and died during his 30s, due to his age on screen. In the original script, it's explained that Beetlejuice died by taking his own life from hanging himself, and his choice of death had left him as a civil servant to Juno, an afterlife businesswoman and caseworker. But Beetlejuice's tricks and mischievous ways made him too difficult to control, where he split from his servitude to Juno and became a freelance bioexorcist. We learn throughout Beetlejuice that his main goal is to leave the restraints of the afterlife. to leave its bureaucratic system, and the only way he can do this is to get married to a living person. As Beetlejuice himself says, he doesn't make up the rules.
Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
However, there are contradictions in Beetlejuice's story, as he also claims to be a graduate of Harvard Business School, which wasn't founded till 1908. So was Beetlejuice around in the early 1900s or the 1300s? Or are both stories made up? Tim Burton himself described Beetlejuice as having lived in every time period, but also no time period. Okay, that really doesn't help us. In fact, Beetlejuice's true identity of who he once was could be seen in his very first appearance, where he is wearing a tour guide hat. So maybe Beetlejuice wasn't someone who survived the Black Plague, or a business graduate, but a mere tour guide. That's the thing. Beetlejuice is such a practical joker, it's hard to tell what is real and what's made up. However, come Beetlejuice in 2024, and finally Beetlejuice's backstory is revealed, where it's shown that he was a grave robber from the days of the Black Death. Okay. Well, I guess all these theories are now done. No point discussing them. Well, not necessarily, as I do still believe the Beetlejuice who was written in the mid-80s is different to the Beetlejuice we got in Beetlejuice. Heck, even the first Beetlejuice. Let's also not forget that Beetlejuice was originally going to be a short Middle Eastern man who had the ability to shapeshift into a winged demon. And I love how in the early storyboards, Beetlejuice still has his black and white stripes, only they are horizontal, making him look more like a convict. And you know what, I've never put the connection of Beetlejuice's stripes as being like the traditional jail attire. Also in the final film, things were going to be different in the scene where Adam and Barbara dig up Beetlejuice's grave. As when he flies out of his grave, originally Beetlejuice was going to look more frightening and ghoulish. Yeah, that puts me off my Rice Krispies. Now I don't think that Beetlejuice is evil per se. Something that Michael Keaton himself even said.
Well, he's slightly scary doesn't necessarily mean he's mean. I mean, he's a bad boy, you know.
After all, some good did come out of Beetlejuice. He saved the Maitlands from being exorcised. He is just overly playful and has his goals and motivations, and will get to them by any means. But at the end of the day, it seems that he just wants to party and have fun, and get up to no good. Oh wow, Beetlejuice is just amazing. Seriously, words cannot express just how much I love this movie. It's an instant go-to film for me whenever I want to be intrigued or just simply entertained. And there is no doubt in my mind that people will forevermore be both celebrating and watching the mad afterlife caper that is Beetlejuice. Anyway, I'm Minty, and Beetlejuice is, and always will be, the ghost with the most. See ya!